So this is the real score reducer, and you can play some pretty appalling golf from tee to green and save the score. It's okay. This is without a doubt a different game. You know, it's totally removed from the golf swing. It should be treated as a different part of the game. We haven't done the new movement generator yet, but what you'll see in new movement generator, as I've said, is that we don't introduce the ball for some time into the operation. You'll notice that most of the books on putting, teaching beginners, start with the hole. Would you say that's true? Okay. So what happens is the beginner is introduced to the hole and they start putting. Okay. So the first thing that they interpret is that they're going to use their hands for putting. So I don't introduce the hands for a long while into this segment. Okay. So where do you think that the putting stroke comes from? Yeah, where does it come from? Where's the putting stroke initiated from? Shoulder? One piece of the shoulder? Okay, rocking motion. And this, pendulum. Okay, so this motion should be a pendulum. Right, so I want everybody to grab hold of their putters, okay? And I want you to get into your putting position, okay, into your usual address position, and then just rock your shoulders, okay? Do you want to come
like
in?
that?
Face the camera. Sorry?
Like that?
Yeah.
Not you
The
are, yeah.
long end, no, you face the camera.
Long end away.
Now take your putting stance and then rock your shoulders. Okay, alright, so hold it. So we're trying to operate a pendulum action, yeah? Okay, so if this is a pendulum action, watch what happens. Where you go, just do your normal action. Do that. Now what's happening? Can you see how that's going way into out on that? Yeah? Okay, everybody do that. Other way. That's it. Have the long end up that end, good. Okay. Okay, take your normal posture. Okay, away you go, start rocking. Okay. Just rock away. That's it, just relax, just let it flow. That's it. And then just watch how that works, yeah? Okay, see how everybody's rocking way inside to out. Look at this one. There it is. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So do you think that's good or bad?
Not quite sure.
So if you wanted to keep it online in a pendulum, that wouldn't be very successful. Okay, so now let's make one little difference, okay? So take your dress position again. Now what we're going to do now is biomechanically set up a stroke, okay? So what I want this to do is to go flat. Flat, 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 flat. Okay? Now watch this. Okay, now rock it up and down. Oh. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, relax. I'm not saying you can't manipulate it like that the other way, but it's much easier to do by biomechanically setting it up straight. So just by biomechanically getting this part flat, yeah, then naturally you're going to set it up to rock like a pendulum. That's the whole idea, that you're mechanically setting it up like that. Okay. So the very first thing that we're doing with a beginner is setting them in this action and with their hands not even touching together. So they're going to be loose, hanging down, totally relaxed, and just get them rocking the shoulder. Okay. Now when you put the putter in their hand, what are they going to stroke it with?
With their hands.
Shoulder, yeah. Oh,
because that's what they've been doing, you know? They're not going to even think of using their hands to hit the stroke. So, you know, what happens time and time again in any particular golf action is the moment that they try and interpret something and think about something, they'll usually go wrong. So the moment you put it in their hands, they'll try and hit it with their hands. And then you'll spend the next 3 years trying to teach them to rock it in their shoulders. Yeah? But if you only give them the shoulders in the first place to rock it, they'll never use their hands. They'll never even think of using their hands. You'll have to actually encourage them to use their hands, maybe on the long putts to get it going a little bit. Yeah?
Try to get the spine flatter, huh?
Absolutely. So this is where you want thoracic and cervical in line. So thoracic and cervical should be perpendicular to the floor. So you're right, because you're right. This stuff isn't in the manual. This is your little pearls, little bits of genius.
Fantastic.
Now, other people have worked this out. In fact, one of the guys that's coming on the course, Peter Royce, that was thinking of coming with you, he's actually he suggested putting a laser light on the end of this device that actually shoots up and down a line, which does exactly the same thing. But of course, if he doesn't set it biomechanically, and I've asked him about whether he's done this or not, if he doesn't set it biomechanically, it won't be right. And also, unfortunately, you don't get a wall to shine the light on. But it's still a good practice. So, when I talk about teaching aids a little bit later on, I like teaching aids to be very, very practical. If they're not practical, I don't like them. But we're going to run with his teaching aid anyway, because it alerts people to the pendulum's got to work like this. It can't work like that. You know, because then you're going to have problems keeping that blade square. So, which is more important, the path that the putt is on, or the club face? Club face? Club face? Path or face? Path? Club face? Path. Okay, so what I decided to do here was do an experiment, and I think that this works. That's fine.
Fire it off.
Yeah, fire it off. So I think this works actually quite well with the ball flight laws in the understanding of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to transport the blade on the club path while the club face is pointing along that line, and we'll see the effect that the club path has on the direction the ball flies. Club face aimed along that line, okay, but we're going to work it along that path, okay? And what you'll see is that, I mean, it was almost more than half an effect the path had on it. Massive effect, yeah? Okay, I'll do that again just because it might not have been that accurate. Someone come and just check that I have this path remaining at that angle, because usually it's not that good. So along the path, yeah, so it's halfway. That's usually pretty standard. Okay. And now what we'll do is we'll keep the putter face aiming at the hole, and we'll work it along the club path. Yeah? So we're going to keep the face square, keep the face square to the target. Yep. Okay. Club face. And if you think about ball flight laws, you'll know that every time the club face was square to the target, the ball went straight to the target, no matter what path you was on. Yeah. So whether it's a big hook or a little draw, little fade, big slice, it'll always go back to the target if the club face is square. So club face is far more important. So we want to bear that in mind when we're talking about the stroke and what we're going to work on. Okay. So we know that the club face, the club path, has at least a 50% effect on where the ball's going. If we combine that to a square club face, it's going to be very difficult for us to get offline. And later on I'm going to introduce the Zen Oracle putter as a teaching aid, which does exactly that. And it's the jewel in the crown as far as teaching aids is concerned, as far as I'm concerned, without a doubt. Okay, so we've learned this piece of information. So what does this mean? Okay, I think the first thing it means is that what we would like to do is learn how to keep that square. So we would start the beginner off when we do get them trained to hold the putter face square, make their stroke, take the blade to a stick, see that it's still there at 90 degrees. Stability, important.
Yes, definitely.
So why is everybody standing with a narrow stance?
It's more comfortable.
Because the books tell you. A lot of the books tell you narrow stance, but why, when the most important thing is stability? So remember what we said about varying the width of stance? We widen it for stability, we narrow it for rotation. Why do we need rotation in the putting stance?
Well, long putt.
Why? You need even more stability to keep the path and the club face square.
You don't want any movement in your body at all.
Exactly. You know, the books say, you know, the legs should move, yeah, they should stay rock solid, the shoulders do all the work. So is that going to be facilitated by a narrow stance or a wide stance? We've already said that once you spread this joint here and make it difficult for move, it's going to freeze the movement down here. So we'd want to do that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and I think
Who's leapt up the putting stats?
Project Hanford.
Yes,
You can see it's like this.
absolutely.
Yeah. He looks ungainly, but it works.
And even a man that's still struggling with his putting as far as his expectations goes, Darren Clark, has improved his putting substantially by going to the wider stance. Okay. You know, unfortunately, I'm a very unintelligent chap. So when people say something like, you know, it should be narrow, I have to go, well, why? And somebody has to explain it to me. Why? And when I ask a lot of these questions, people haven't got the answer. They don't know, because it came from a book, you know, 20 years back. People have been copying it. You know, how did the dustbin lid theory when it comes to putting? You know, you'll still probably see it appear in today's golfer within a couple of months. And in some cases, it's a good idea, but in 99% of cases, it's wrong for the process. It doesn't support the process. If you're going to aim at a pinprick, then you're always going to aim at a pinprick. It's only the expectation level you've got to change, and we're going to see how this comes into the putting a little bit later. So we're going to carry on with the setup now. So I think my recommendation is the wide stance. Yeah? Okay?
No.
We employ all of the same procedures as far as being square as we did in the long game. It's exactly the same. Everything that you've got in aim is the same. Yeah? Some people will suggest to you that they want to have their legs open to the target or their legs shut to the target. It's fine. You know, I've got no problem. But we're starting from the basics. Okay? The basics is what's matter. We're going to go for the eye over the ball. The science books tell us that there is a slight difference between left eye dominant and right eye dominant because of where it's coming from. I haven't decided whether the dominant eye should be at the same place. So what I'm saying here is that I suggest to you that whichever your dominant, at the moment that the target eye, yeah, should be positioned downwards where the face meets the ball, on top of the ball to target line. That is the best place to assess whether the putter face is square to that intended target line. Now I think where there might be some debate is that if your right eye dominate, should your right eye be at that position? And I haven't got any scientific information to give you on that one to decide, so you might want to have an experiment with that. I haven't had time to do any work on it, and yeah, you probably need to be in the lab. So our check for this, okay, is that when we believe that our eye is in that position, we drop the ball up to the eye and it drops, and you decide whether you're a little bit this way or a little bit that way until you're in the correct position. Some of you may just like to have it so that it drops straight on top. I'll do that again. Some of us might like to think when it's straight on top. Okay. And in actual fact, the best scenario is that both balls go along the target line, back that way, then you've more or less got the exact position. but you don't need to go that deep into it. I think that what they're saying is left eye dominant, you can be right over the ball. If you're right eye dominant, you can be slightly fractionally inside the ball to target line. But I have no proof or evidence that that works. None at all. Okay. To create spin on the ball, to create top spin on the ball, yeah, we need to hit the middle of the ball and stay on the middle of the ball, even going up the ball. So the perfect strike for top spin is going to be there, which is the middle of the ball, and like that. That's going to be the perfect strike. Now you'll notice here that when I do that, that this is leading, and if you want to stay it leading, stay leading through the shot. So this would mean that in the setup the hands look as though technically they should be leading the putter face. So I suggest to you that the hands are ahead, okay, or above the ball at worst. So above the ball at worst or ahead the ball, and that through the stroke they should stay that way. Okay? So the setup, everything square, eye over the ball, flat in here, so that at least on the, certainly on the, to about 4 foot, that club path can come straight back, straight through with the blade square, which is we're going to demonstrate when we use the Zen Oracle what a powerful method of putting that is. Okay, so we've basically got the setup. The ball is in the middle of the stance or up to 2 inches forward. Okay, so as long as we're going to create the centre of gravity needs to be a little bit behind the ball so that this is on the up as it comes through. You don't need to exaggerate this as an upstroke, as you see a lot of kids doing. Yeah, so it doesn't need to be an exaggerated stroke. If that ball is just that inch forward, then you'll get it. I also suggest to you that the head is definitely above the ball and not behind the ball, so that the weight is slightly onto the target side. Okay, that's about there. Very still with the stroke, but you'll grow that stroke without the ball first. Yeah, you'll watch their stability. You'll get them to shut their eyes. If we've read the Inner Game of Golf, you'll know the importance of eyes shut when learning how to putt. Okay, so I'm not going to go over all of the great information that's in Tim Galway's book on putting in the Inner Game. You need to read it and you need to use it in every single putting lesson you do. Yeah. Okay, so what I think you need to do now is you need to break off. If you become part of the team here, team up as a threesome, I want you to go through all of your basics. Yeah, so your setup, but not your basics. I want you to be able to set up so you might stand here like this putt. I don't care. I want you to get it square. I want you to be able to know square, teach square, take the aim, putter face aim, and get to the point where you're starting to make perfect 2-foot putts in perfect address position to the blade, to the ball. Yeah? Yeah. So when we do get down to hole, we start at the very simplest. This is a very individual thing. We said that we want to keep the putter face square for the longest, so we adapt a hold that will keep that putter face square for longest. So I tend to think that when people put fingers down, then that could keep it square for longer, but it also could tend to work it. So I think you need to be very careful of where you position these things so that it's working to keep the putter face square for longer. Okay. So the basic beginners is prayer. Yeah, like a prayer, yeah. Slide down, keeping it very much in the palms. Okay, in the palms, thumbs down the shaft. Okay, you could then put that finger down the shaft as well. That's your start. Okay, and you may want to get those a little bit closer. So, in a normal hold, yeah, we're putting it in here. This facilitates wrist set. Okay? That's why we don't have it here, because it will bend the wrist here, bend the elbow here. However, when we're in putty, we want to stop any wrist movement and any wrist set, so that's why we're in to the palm. Okay? Very much in the palm. Okay? And thumbs down. But then you could do anything you want.
Yeah.
All sorts of ideas. It's just a question of personal choice. Talk a little bit about a method for putting as a strategy. Okay. And then, most important, some of the work that Bob Rokeller's done, with a little bit of my own ideas from reading other people on length putting. So we're all agreed that most of our 3 putts, if they do occur, I know that won't happen for many of you, you're probably all single or 2 putters. The 3 puttings comes from getting the length wrong rather than your aim wrong. They might come from getting the read wrong as well. Yeah. So in other words, it goes 5 foot right because you didn't read it like that. But very rarely will you actually lose it more than 3 foot left or right of the hole on a straight putt even from 30 foot. Is that correct or not?
About right, yeah.
Yeah. So it's mostly length. The reason that most people get length wrong is because they don't allow their talent out. Certainly in the equation, performance equals talent plus skills minus interference, the skill level doesn't have to be that high with putting. But what you do need is to facilitate your talent out. And even with tour professionals, I've seen them more reliant on technique than talent. Okay. So we're going to show you how to release that talent. The strategy. Okay, the basic strategy is 17 inches past the hole to a pinprick. That's my strategy for putting. That involves meaning that I never use the hole as a target. The hole is never the target. There is an exception to that fact when I get into the range where I'm not going to consider borrow or pace. So in other words, you can get into an area, and that might be 1 foot for some people, it might be as much as 3 foot for others, where they don't bother with the line, they don't bother with the pace, they just rely on gravity and slam it into the back of the hole as a straight putt. Yeah, you know people that do that, and maybe some of you have a range that you do that yourself. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I have that, then I have a different routine, and for those people that miss a lot of 3 foot putts, then I show them that technique as well. So essentially, we're going to talk about the length putting aspect, which you're going to find extremely useful this week as you play your competition golf. Okay. So 17 inches by, why?
Optimum speed, okay. Give us a chance to put the ball in the hole.
Okay. Yep. So why does it give you a chance more than if you had it dead weight?
Well, dead weight, it could be a borrow, short of the hole, spike height, spike marks.
So all of your imponderables as far as the conditions, which are many-fold in putting. Spike marks, pitch marks, any sort of crevice hole, all sorts of things. Wear and tear on holes. The donut effect that Peltzy discovered. Does everybody know the donut effect?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so basically the donut effect is you don't actually put your foot here. So everybody is walking around this. Yeah, they don't get any closer than that. So that's going to lift up so that this area becomes like a donut. So what do we need to know? What do we need to know to make a putt?
The line.
We need to know
Line distance.
the line. Okay, so we need whatever scientific equipment could be made available, those elaborate shows us all the borrows and that. We might need one of those, what the builders use, the spirit levels. We need all of that information. What else do we need to know?
Distance.
The distance, so we need tape measure. So we know. What else do we need? No.
Speed of the green.
Speed of the green. So we need stimp meter.
Stimp
Stimp
meter.
meter. Yeah.
should be there.
Yeah. What else do we need?
Condition. The grass.
Condition of the grass. So we
Yeah,
need
the
an
nap.
agronomist.
The nap
Okay.
of the-
So we need an agronomist to tell us those
Weather.
details. Yeah.
Weather.
So we need what do they call a weatherman?
A meteorologist.
Meteorologist. Yeah. Meteorologist. Give us all the pressures, the
Yeah.
temperatures, the wind conditions.
Right.
Yeah. What else do we need?
Soft ball, hard ball.
So we need to know the ball manufacturers to know how the ball's going to react to the face and all the scientific equipment on that. Yeah. What else do we need to know?
We need a putter.
What about the putter? What do we need to know about the putter?
The weight.
Loft,
Weight.
weight. So we need scales.
Yeah.
What else do we need to know the weight of?
Ourselves.
Ball. Well done. I can see we're out there today, picking up those very faint subtle cues.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What else do we need to know?
Whether it's cloudy, if the ball's going to react.
Yeah, that we got the
Oh,
meteorologist.
you got the meteorologist here, haven't you? Yeah, of course,
So we're going to need to know, once we know the weight, how hard to hit it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So we're going to need scientist, mathematician, and computer. So we don't need much, do we? But of course, we have all these skills on board. This is our talent.
Yeah.
So what's our tool for measurement?
Our judgment, our skill.
What do we use to measure?
Experience,
Result.
feel,
You actually need to swing.
energy, feel.
Now that is how you block talent. That's how you block talent.
What was that?
You feel. I would use my eyes to gauge how far something was away. Yeah? What would you use for scales?
Weight.
What would you use for scales?
Feel.
So,
Yeah. Feel. Weight.
what would you think?
Your hand, I think.
Ah!
Hand.
Another, you're just whipping up these subtle clues today. I tell you, you boys are alive.
You drop it on your friend's tongue. That's heavy.
So all of the other things, the brain is your scientist, you calculate your experience of weather conditions, your reader of greed, it's everything. Okay? So the idea here is you've got to let this stuff go. Now the moment that you try and take it back a certain distance is that you're stopping that from happening. Okay, so what I do is, first of all, I look at the point where I think is the line. So this is just guesswork. That's maybe not. I don't know. I haven't got a clue.
Number one, are you?
Yeah, for number one. Okay. So this is what I do now. Okay. One hand to begin with. I look at that. Okay. I just look at it. Okay. Hold on to it with a hold that's maintaining all of the contact points, but is as light as possible to feel the weight. Are we rolling? Yeah. So I look at it. Two hands, and then step up. That's it. Now, what that is allowing your talent, your natural talent, whatever talent you have inside you, out. So the whole process had nothing to do with trying to feel the weight. There was no trying to feel the weight. I just let go and let the body have it. I started off with one hand because one hand's more sensitive than two. I then went to two hands to imitate the stroke. All the time, just looking at the point and allowing. I then go up to the ball and hit it within 6 seconds on total automatic. So I didn't try and match how I hit it. I just let it hit it. Now the real skill here is, because this works, it just works, alright? The real skill is to know whether you hit it how you'd felt to hit it. To be so aware that you know whether you hit it harder and softer than you meant to. And of course, if you hit it harder and softer, then you need to let go more.
And this is where the practice comes
And this is where the practice comes. Well, not really. No, it's an awareness in the sense of letting go. It's just a question of letting go and getting the feedback. So now, if I hit this putt and I let go completely, yeah, and it goes 20 foot long, yeah, then I don't try and hit the next one softer. What do I do?
Try that.
I don't try at all.
More
What do I
aware.
do?
Do the same thing.
So let's see if this goes. Well, I want to do the same thing.
No, I mean with the feel, and then you feel it.
Maybe your brain will work out for you.
Get the feedback.
That actually, I mean, I tend to agree with you. All right, and when you really fully let go, that does happen. But in the meantime, what would you do? So I've hit this putt and it's gone 20 foot past on the right line. What is the next thing I'm going to do to make this putt right? If that actual putt matched the practice putt.
You're going to do the same thing again. And let your talent take the thing.
I'll move that closer. I'll just move that closer. I'll move the marker closer. I'll move my pinprick closer to me.
Right, and then you.
Because otherwise, you see what you would have done. I sense what you would have done. What you would do. You would go out on the first hole on a golf course, okay? And unfortunately, because there was no practice facility or the green didn't match, that was on the golf course. And you hit your first putt, and it goes steaming 10 foot by. Yeah. What would you do on the next putt? I guess you'd hit it softer, and you'd come up short. Now that is the biggest mistake that you would make. And you'll have days where you come up and people will say, well, I just couldn't get the pace of the greens today. Well, that's because you were trying to get the pace of the greens today, accepting what you did on the first hole and just working as that as a level playing field. Yeah, absolutely. And I was until, God bless him, I got this method from our young man. Okay, so very quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to aim that a little bit further. Okay. So all I do now is I'm just going to imagine my point a little bit further back there, probably no more than another, probably the hole actually. It's hard to focus on the hole with that key there. Got it. See how we go. Okay. Now, what I can assure you is that I never did anything but look. Never did anything but look and let it go. And believe you me, that putt's slow. It's slower than when I last did it. Because usually that would have got there. Okay. Yeah. But you see, I didn't get panicky. I just hit it a little bit harder. Okay. And it just needs to probably be another just 6 inches further, and then you got a dead weight putt. Okay, so let's just go over this. The secret is, there's another a little secret here that I have covered. When I first listened to the Bob Rotella tapes and started realising how great the information on the tapes was, and obviously, you know, great coaches, they take something and then they just add a couple of spices to it. But I experimented with it. The guy comes in, taught him the method, showed him how to do it, and I was in the studio and I was filming him. This is what happened. Okay, so he went like this. Camera's rolling. Okay, he's looking at his spot. So what happened then?
No dance. Well done. Good at the beginning.
Oh, observers.
They didn't wear the weight of the club.
What did you see? Okay, this time pay attention. Yeah. So you know how you did that, don't you? Honed in. Yeah. So hone in, but don't think. Just let your senses go to everything that's happening. Okay. What also happens is golfers say, I like fast greens, or I like slow greens. Well, you can use this method to put the pin prick before or after to get to that 17-inch rule. It doesn't matter what greens you're on because you're making the same pace of putt. It's all feel. Okay, so I want to go over this one more time. It's so simple. You look at where you want to go. As you look, you make approximately 3 strokes and just allow it to happen. Just notice. Then 2 hands, noticing it's exactly the same. And then step up, and with 8 seconds, just allow your putting stroke to duplicate what it just did. Now what you'll notice on occasions is that your actual putt doesn't represent what you practiced. That's fine. We're only human beings. It's important that you notice that you didn't let go enough. It's the letting go of everything. It's the allowing your body to move exactly like it did in the practice swing that will give you the result. What you will discover, I positively assure you, that when you putt it exactly like you did in the practice putt, you will hit the putt spot on. Okay, now what we've got here, just to demonstrate first of all 2 aspects. That with this method you only have straight putts, and to give you an idea of what happens when we have one that's uphill. So what we have here is our point that we've picked for both borrow and distance is about 36 inches behind the hole because it's uphill with a slightly damp green. And we've got a 2-foot swing, which we've gauged. So I'm going to look at this. I'm going to act as though my putt was straight. Okay. And what you can see is that the ball's gone 17 inches directly behind the pole. So I got the line slightly wrong, but I've got that putt, I've seen the lie back, so it's very easy just to tap it up because I know the line.